woke ideology bring down the submersible looking for the Titanic. Good morning, Boston. Okay, my friends, a lot to talk about. By the way, we will get to this. Adam Shifty Schiff finally was censured yesterday in the House of Representatives. He's not happy. Democrats are screaming bloody murder. But yes, the Republicans finally did something with Adam Shifty Schiff, and he has been officially censured. Now, I will get to that. But as you and I speak right now, there is about hour, 10 minutes left of breathable air. And they may already be dead. We don't know. The submarine the submersible may have already imploded, being so deep down into the ocean. But in theory, they are still possibly alive. They had 96 hours worth of breathable air when they went under Sunday. This was a tourist submarine created by OceanGate. And it brought 5 people on board, including the CEO. Everyone paid $250,000 each for the privilege of going deep below sea level in the North Atlantic, about 400 miles off of the coast of Newfoundland up in Canada, to look at the wreckage of the Titanic. So this was basically now underwater tourism. And many of the people on board are billionaires. And this was very dangerous. It was high risk. They knew it was high risk. And that was almost part of the appeal. And they went deep underwater to look at the wreckage, to view the wreckage of the Titanic. They went missing within 2 hours of their dive. There, as you know, it's one of the biggest stories in the world. There's a massive multinational mission now to try to rescue desperately these people before they run out of air. As I said, unless their submersible or little submarine hasn't imploded from the immense pressure in case it went all the way down to the bottom of the ocean. Now, the Coast Guard is saying that they're intensifying their efforts. They're throwing everything they can. Air, sea, you name it. There's a desperate search now. Other submarines are joining as well. They are desperately hoping to try to find these people before it's too late. The company itself, OceanGate, is now coming under immense fire for multiple reasons. Number one, numero uno, the director of marine operations said that there were not enough safety tests done on this submersible. It's called the Titan. On the Titan, before it took these people and went, 12,000 feet or whatever it was, to try to look at the wreckage of the Titanic. As the director said, if you're going to go that deep underwater with that massive amount of pressure, you better make sure you've done safety test after safety test. When he complained that there were not enough safety tests done, and in some cases, no safety tests done, he was fired. Secondly, there were no safety precautions or important safety precautions taken. One of them, which is to me incredible, is that there is no safety beacon on the submarine craft. None. No GPS tracking system, no emergency beacon. In other words, no beep, 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 beep. Just in case things go wrong and you need to be rescued, you need a freaking beacon. Hello? I mean, even I know that. And I know almost nothing about, marine operations, submarines, going underwater. I try to avoid going underwater as much as possible. The deepest I want to go is like maybe 5 feet in my pool. That's it. So, I try to avoid trouble, but that's me. But if you're going to go that deep underwater and potentially put people's lives at risk, you should have, call me crazy, a safety beacon. I'm just, hey. So that's number two. But number three, and this is now the story that the media is refusing to touch. But on social media and on the alternative media, people are asking it left, right, and center, which is, did wokeness, and I hope they're still alive. Please don't get me wrong, although time is now running out. Is it, if they do end up dying, or if they're already dead, was it wokeness that killed them? Was this embrace of this crazy diversity, equity, inclusion agenda? Is this now what did in the crew and the passengers on the Titan? The reason why I ask is because now it is coming out that the CEO of OceanGate, that runs this, that controls this owns this submersible, Stockton Rush, who, by the way, is on that submarine. He's on that submarine. Well, the CEO gave interviews where he literally bragged that what made OceanGate, his company, different from others that engage in underwater tourism or sub-operators, is that he goes, we don't hire 50-year-old plus white guys with military experience. Why? Because they're not, quote-unquote, inspirational. Quote, here's what he said. When I started the business, old-timers in the industry told me I was nuts. And they continue to tell me that. Partly because I said I was going to take inexperienced pilots in a submarine, in current, in zero visibility. And they thought I was insane. So you're admitting you're going to take people who don't have the experience to pilot or captain a submarine. And he goes on to explain to run tech platforms, to do IT, to do any. He goes, no, I don't want people with experience. And I certainly don't want them white. Even though, by the way, he's white. He's 61 years old. He's a 50-plus-year-old white guy. But let that go. And he said, no, I don't inspire anybody. I'm just an old white guy. What I want is someone young, very young, 25 years old, really young. And as he put it, from a diverse background. And he showed up on a screen, women, minorities, the younger, the better, the more diverse, the better. And he said, why? Why don't you want a 50-year-old white guys? Here's, in fact, as he put it, one of the things you'll find, there are other sub-operators out there, but they typically have gentlemen who are ex-military submariners. And you'll see a whole bunch of 50-year-old white guys. And he's like, no, I didn't want that. Quote, I wanted our team to be younger, to be inspirational. And I'm not going to inspire a 16-year-old to go pursue marine technology. But a 25-year-old who's a submarine pilot or a platform operator or one of our techs, they can be inspirational, he said. So he said, no, what we did was we deliberately hired very young people with as diverse a background as possible. I guess, in other words, the more diversity boxes that they check, the better. And then this is the part I can't wrap my mind around this. He admits it himself in several interviews. He said, in the end, well, what does it matter? Why do I need someone who was in the military or in the Navy or in the Coast Guard? You know, someone who's got a lot of experience in case there's an emergency or you're under a crisis situation and you need someone cool under pressure who's handled all kinds of potential disaster scenarios. Because According to him, anybody can, quote, drive the sub because it has a video game controller. This entire submersible, this little mini submarine, was run and controlled by a video game controller that you could buy off of Amazon. I swear to you, it retails at $30. I've seen other stories where they say $49.95. So either it retails at $30 or at $50. In his interview, he says it costs $30. So you are going to go underwater with pilots, crew members, engineers, people running the tech platform, A, who are not qualified, B, because you prioritize diversity. You prioritize diversity over experience and competence. Run by a $30 video game controller? Ay, ay, ay. Did wokeness get them killed? 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, I want to ask you, do you believe now wokeness in many ways caused the downfall of this submersible and may be now responsible for the death of everybody on board the Titan, which is that submarine ship, that submarine vessel or whatever, that craft that billionaires got on, each paid $250,000 each to view the wreckage of the Titanic. And you've got the CEO who's on that craft. He's on that sub, Stockton Rush, openly bragging about how we didn't want experienced white guys in the military, who worked in the Navy, who worked in the Coast Guard, who handled submarines and were trained for 20, 25, 30 years. What we wanted were young people with a, quote, as much diverse background as possible. And he said everybody in the industry said, you're crazy. That you need experience, you need competence, because people's lives are in your hands. And his response was, no, because we've got a video controller. Jeff, come on, you're joking. No, I'm serious. His answer was, we've got a video controller, and this video controller is what's going to be directing or guiding this craft, this submersible. And by the way, $30. It retails for $30 on Amazon. And apparently they got it from some camping ground site. Sorry, Camping World. They got it from Camping World. $30. Camping World. You know, that's what Sandy's saying. Did they forget batteries? Like for the Game Boy before they directed this submarine. I mean, you want to talk about an absolute, disaster after disaster, bad decision after bad decision. So you don't do any safety tests. The director of marine operations says you're crazy to go that deep underwater without doing safety tests. So they fire the director of marine operations. It was a bleep show. You know, you're completely right, Sandy. No safety beacon, nothing. So, what if something goes wrong? How do we get rescued? Oh, that's a good question. You mean there's no GPS, there's no beacon, there's no? Now, yeah, the Apple Watch. Yes, Andy, right. The Apple Watch, was that going to help? 12,000 feet under the ocean. So, and now this, where he openly says, and I want to quote this. This is incredible. This is absolutely incredible. So he's going on about, quote, we don't need experienced white guys. Quote, we can train someone to pilot the sub. We use a game controller. So anybody can drive the sub. And then he goes on about how he prioritized after this. He goes, no, for us, diversity is everything. And we also wanted our team to have a variety of different backgrounds. Really get people that have diverse backgrounds. And he said, and on the screen, We want as many women, as many minorities, and whether they've ever actually been in a submarine, it doesn't matter. Whether they can drive a pilot or captain a submarine, it doesn't matter. Because it's all off a $30 video controller. So if you can play a video game, I'm not kidding, that's what his argument was. If you can play a video game, if you can do a Game Boy or PlayStation 4 or 5 or whatever it is, then you can drive the sub. But whatever you are, don't be white and don't be above 50. And serve in the military. I mean, ay. Now, and this is the story that has captured the imagination of the world. This is the biggest news story in the entire world. You cannot turn on the TV. I don't care what cable station you watch, cable news, nightly news, front page of every newspaper. There's this frantic search. They got maybe an hour left of oxygen if the craft hasn't already imploded from the immense pressure, if it really went deep down under seawater, under sea level. I mean, you're looking at, we're talking about immense pressure. So they're trying to, the Coast Guard's involved, the Navy's involved, the Canadian Navy is involved. You've got aircraft. I mean, they're looking for this desperately now before they run out of air. But this is what I don't get. I don't get this. Why, if you're going to go under the knife, okay, say you got an operation, an open heart surgery, do you care if the person is white, black, brown, a woman, a man? No, really? Gay, straight? Who cares? Don't you want the best freaking surgeon? If you're boarding a plane and they tell you, well, I want you to know, we don't hire people who are 50, white guys, 50 years old and above with military experience. You know, they were in the Air Force for 25, 30 years. No, we want them 25, young, women, the more boxes they check, the better. I'm like, I'm not flying that plane. So whether it's piloting a plane, whether it's surgery, whether it's anything to do with that affects me or my family, I want experience and I want competence. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, time is dwindling. It is running out. The search for the missing Titanic submersible now nears the critical 96-hour mark for its oxygen supply. Apparently, according to the Coast Guard, it is going to run out of air in basically 35 minutes. At 7:08 a.m. this morning, there, at least in theory, there should be no more oxygen left. So they're pulling out all the stops, desperately trying to locate, find it, and maybe rescue some of the people on board. Fingers crossed. 617-266-6868 is the number. But now many are questioning the insane woke ideology of its CEO, who's on that submersible, Stockton Rush, who bragged repeatedly, my pilots, the captains, the people controlling the ship back at headquarters with a $30 video game controller that they bought off Camping World. And by the way, all of this was known to everyone who boarded the ship. They knew, because there were reports 6 months before this voyage was planned, that these were young people. They prioritized diversity, that they didn't want experienced captains or pilots on the sub, that this was all being controlled by essentially a PlayStation or a Game Boy controller that you can buy for $30-40. And I don't know if they, I don't know. Maybe that's part of the thrill, is that there's there's an amount of danger, of the amount of risk in this. I don't know what you're thinking at that point. But my question to you is wokeness responsible now for the disaster that has befallen the Titan? And the Kuhner Country poll question of the day. They paid $250,000 each for the privilege of going in the Titan, that little mini submersible, and to view the wreckage of the Titanic. Forget 250. If you were given a ticket free, would you go on the next submersible, say the Titan II, to view the wreckage of the Titanic? Would you go into a submersible free? If there's another opportunity, say next year or 2 years from now, would you go and get on a sub, a mini sub, to view the wreckage of the Titanic? Are you willing to go 12,000 feet below sea level in order to see the wreck of the Titanic? Yes or no? To me, it's an automatic no. That is really deep underwater. I'm not taking any chances with my life. I don't care if you pay me $250,000. I'm not going in that submersible. But that's me. I want to hear from you. Would you go on a submersible, let's say the Titan II, if they gave it to you for free to view the wreckage of the Titanic? You can vote on our webpage, wrko.com/Kuhner, wrko.com/Kuhner, Kuhner, or if you prefer, you can vote via Twitter, our handle there, at the Kuhner Report, Kuhner. It's all one word. You can also text the Kuhner Man. This is from 917. Jeff, according to Karine Jean-Pierre, President Biden's press secretary, in her own words, quote, I'm a historical figure, and that's because she's a minority. A woke appointment. Tragically, all aboard the Ocean Gate sub will now be historical figures too. Well, she's a disaster. She's an absolute disaster. Because it's not just that she's black, she's a lesbian, they bragged about it. In fact, she even said, I'm the first black lesbian to be the press secretary. Well, who cares? Are you competent? Like, I don't care what the color of your skin is or who you sleep with or who you don't sleep with. Are you competent? Are you smart? Can you do the job? Well, she checks all the boxes. She's a disaster. And now, the crew, they all check the boxes on the Ocean Gate. And look at them. Now they're God knows where. 617-266-6868 is the number. Wokeness. Did it get everyone on board that sub killed? And would you want to fly a plane or get in a submarine or go under the knife, have an operation, a surgery performed on you by someone who, quote unquote, fit the diversity background, but clearly was not competent? Are we now causing people to die in the name of wokeness? James in New Hampshire. Thanks for holding, James, and welcome.
Good morning, Jeff.
Hi, James.
You couldn't pay me to go in that submarine, nor could you pay me to go to the moon if Elon Musk was giving it for free. I wouldn't want to go on any of these things. And it's very possible that the wokeness had a big part of this. Yes, there could be mechanical failures and whatnot, but I'm sure it was a great part of this. And also, as you know, there's a shortage of airline pilots. So they're fast-tracking. Some of the companies in the industry are fast-tracking pilots that have no experience to go through some program where they're actually just doing, video games, flight simulators to fly the plane, and they're going to get you to safety. But do you know, I know some people in the industry, do you know that, part of the pilots do pre-checks to make sure that this plane is safe to take off? Well, I don't know how well their training is going to be with their video game, but there was some fuselage that had 9 screws loose, that had to be tightened for the pilot's pre-check before the plane could take off. Is that going to be caught by someone that plays a video game? I mean, I really don't think so. And also remember Sully, gone are the days of the pilots that just simply fly you safely from A to B, that, if there's God forbid, a problem, they have the experience and qualified to land the plane like Sully did in the Hudson River.
That's right.
You know what I mean?
No, I know. I mean, almost a miracle. That's what I mean. Like, to me, you can't put a price on, frankly, military experience, especially when it comes to, flying a plane or operating a sub or, anything like that. Frankly, even in surgery. They're people in war zones or whatever, and they're doing surgery after surgery, and we can work under tremendous pressure. So, you can land a plane on the water. I mean, to me, that kind of experience, that kind of competence, that kind of skill level that you've developed over 20, 30, 35, 40 years, and you're about to put your own life in danger by going 12,000 feet underwater, beneath sea level? And you're saying, 25-year-old is great. I don't care. Women, minorities, hey, it's all the video controller. If they can play video games, they can guide the sub. I'm like, and James, this is not a stupid man. He's a very wealthy man, CEO of OceanGate, an entrepreneur, successful businessman. And you got so brainwashed by woke ideology, he put his very own life in the hands of some 25-year-old who's, with a PlayStation controller, $30 PlayStation controller. James, the world's gone nuts. I'm telling you, it's gone nuts. James, thank you very, very much for that call. And sadly, we'll find out soon, but they may have now paid the ultimate price. They believed in wokeness so much, it may have gotten them killed. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, my friends, time is running out. They have about half an hour left of breathable air in their tourist sub. After that, people now think it could be over. So the search is now intensifying. The eyes of the world now are in the North Atlantic. And now the question is, can they pull off a miracle rescue? 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, Jeff, this is 781. Jeff, what do you call the woke who's admitted to medical school but finishes last in the class? Answer, doctor. Woke plus hubris equals tragedy, whether on a submarine or an operating room. Bingo. Bingo. And that is true, by the way. Now, people who finish last in their class, in their medicine class, if they're woke, if they claim that they want to get rid of racism in the medical profession, or if they claim they support Black Lives Matter, or want diversity and equity and inclusion, they make them doctors. They may be incompetent, but ideologically, politically, they're social justice warriors. So, you know what? Kuhner's got needs open heart surgery. I just hope they can tell the difference between my liver and my heart. And that's what we're starting to see now, the consequences of wokeness. We're starting to see it everywhere. I want to read one more email, go right back to the blazing phone lines. 617-266-6868 is the number. Jeff, wokeness is deadly. Yet again, here we have another example of how dangerous woke ideology is. In fact, over the past several years, we have example after example of how it can actually get people killed. Whether we're talking about young woke liberals making bicycle trips across dangerous Middle Eastern countries in the name of, quote, love, tolerance, and diversity, unquote, who end up getting abducted and beheaded, or this Moonbat CEO of OceanGate getting himself and everyone else on board killed. The thing about wokeness and modern liberalism is that it always flies in the face of basic common sense and well-established, quote-unquote, best practices. Jeff, wisdom will not be wasted on fools. Full stop. You know, I got to tell you, I mean, I want them to be saved. I want them to be rescued. These are human beings. They have families. That poor 19-year-old boy, there's a son of a billionaire on board that ship, on that sub. I mean, I feel sorry for him, everybody on board, their families. But I got to tell you, I mean, ay. You want to talk about being reckless, hubris, frankly stupid, and how you can put your life, your fate in the hands of a $30 video game controller as you're going 12,000 feet below sea level, basically almost on the ocean floor. 617-266-6868 is the number. So what do you make now of this story? Do you believe they will be rescued? And did wokeness get them killed if they are dead? And is this now a look into the future? Is this going to be doctors, pilots, surgeons? Is this what we're facing with now in the United States and around the world, where we prioritize diversity over experience and competence? 617-266-6868. David in New Hampshire. Thanks for holding, David, and welcome.
Good morning, Jeff.
Hi, David.
I just love you, and it's platonic. The previous caller, also from New Hampshire, I forgot his name, but he mentioned a movie.
James,
something
James.
About a movie. I think he's on the right track with that, because I think this is just a publicity stunt for a movie, Titanic 2. And the rescuers are going to pop open the sub, and Leonardo DiCaprio is going to be all like, ugh. But see, the movie will flop because they'll probably cast Rose as a different gender, a different, who knows. I'm sorry if it's too soon for jokes. That's how I deal with tragedy. So, because I'm sick, can't help it.
Well, David, let me ask you. I'm just curious. Would you forget the $250,000? They paid each $250,000 to go on that sub. Would you do it for free? Would you go that deep under the water to view the wreckage of the Titanic, knowing the risks?
My inner mandate tells me that I need to keep breathing, and that this is not happening underwater. So, no, your previous caller, you guys said you would have to pay me. Yeah, I'm on board with that. That's no way. But it's a movie stuff. It's got to be.
Fingers crossed. I really hope they survive. I hope they're all alive.
I do too, actually. I know that's kind of dark, but it's going to take 30 minutes just to get back up to the surface. So the reality of running out of oxygen, they're facing. They're going to die horribly. That's just, I wouldn't know. I get the shivers just thinking about it.
No, I know. No, David, look, I got to tell you a lot. Because this was the point Sandy was making to me before we started the show. She said, look, they're several miles underwater. She goes, do you understand? You can't just pull them up. You can't. So you got to bring them up gradually, slowly, bit by bit. She goes, I don't even think there's enough time. Even if they found them now, this was like an hour and a half ago. So there's that. And then, maybe a lot of people are saying if the sub had already been crushed under all that pressure, that maybe it's for the best, because to suffocate that deep underwater, is a horrific way to die. I mean, either way, it's horrific, but that's like out of a horror movie. So anyway, David, thank you very much for that call. I really appreciate it. 617-266-6868 is the number. No, look, I just got to say this. You know, most of the people on that sub, they're not millionaires, billionaires. One is a billionaire from Pakistan. Another one is a billionaire from Great Britain. The CEO of Ocean Gate, the Stockton Rush, the guy who's going on about, I don't want 50-year-old plus white guys with military experience. I don't want them piloting the sub. I don't want them in the platform. I don't want them controlling the video controller. We want diversity. He's a billionaire. So you've got multiple billionaires on that sub. And I'm asking myself, why? Why would you decide to play Russian roulette with your life? I mean, this was well advertised. No safety beacon? They knew that before they got on the ship. Whatever, the sub, the craft. Why? Controlled by a video controller? A PlayStation video? A $30 they got from Camping World? Like, they knew that. So, I mean, I'm like, well, hold on. This submersible, this tourist sub, yeah. You mean there's some 25-year-old geek that's controlling it from a PlayStation 4 controller that costs $29.99? Yeah. I don't think so. And you want me to go 12,000 feet below sea level? Yeah. Hey, listen, I value my life. I'm good. Thank you. I mean, why would you do it? I mean, I know you want to see the wreck of the Titanic, but ay. So I'm asking myself, was it hubris? Was it frankly stupidity? Was it a bit of both? Or was the risk? I mean, I'm reading all these stories now about how, it's not just tourist subs that people are into. Now, I'm not kidding. Wall Street Journal, big story. People want to go to the ends of the earth. Rich, wealthy people like the Antarctic, the Arctic, and, do like tourism and say, let me put my life in danger and see something that nobody else can possibly see. I don't know, i.e. the South Pole or the North Pole. And they go, you may die, you may freeze to death, but hey, you've had one hell of an experience. So is it just you have that much money that you're bored and you need a risk? And the greater the risk, the more you like it? I mean, what's wrong with bungee jumping? What's wrong with, what is it? You jump off a plane at 35,000 feet with a parachute. How about some water skiing? Whatever. Drive a fancy car, one of those Lamborghinis, and you're a billionaire. So, drive at 100 miles an hour around the racetrack. What happened to that? 617-266-6868. People with a lot of money and maybe too much time on their hands. Mabel in Methuen. Thanks for holding, Mabel, and welcome.
Hi, Jeff. Thanks for taking my call. I'm listening to you. I listen to you all the time, but you're just making all the right points. The, controller from Amazon and what have you. But in my mind, when I first heard this, I felt like they knew they weren't coming back. I feel like it was a suicide mission of sorts. They just were not fulfilled in their lives. I mean, by anybody with half a brain, and they all were billionaires, they had probably been obviously very privileged, at least materially, their whole lives. They had done everything, and this was the ultimate, last item on the bucket list. I feel like the 5 people that were in that capsule had something in common that most of us could never understand. And I think their families knew they weren't coming back. I think they knew they weren't coming back. I think it was completely selfish. And that's just how I feel about it. It's awful. It's selfish on all levels, even all the research teams all over the world that people could maybe use those resources somewhere else. so it's totally selfish on that level too. But I feel like they just had big holes in their lives and nothing was making them happy. I mean, I agree with you, Jeff. How could anybody in their right mind think you're coming back from that?
Well, Mabel, let me ask you this. Would you go on a plane? Would you go in a car? Would you get on a boat? Never mind a submarine that's going to go 12,000 feet below sea level. By the way, zero visibility. Like it's just dark. It's just dark, 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 dark. And you're going deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper. And and they tell you, it's a $30 remote control PlayStation, video controller. That's what's guiding the plane, or that's what's guiding the car, or that's what's guiding the boat, or in this case, that's what's guiding the sub. If you're about to board a plane, they go, yeah, there's some 25-year-old, really no experience, but very diverse. Mabel, very diverse. I want you to know that. Very diverse. And $30 video controller, and that's basically going to be guiding the plane. Would you get on that plane?
No, not in a million years.
I'd be like, are you crazy? I'd be like, no, but sir, you paid. Take my money. I value my life more than my money. Bye.
Oh, I mean, anyone that would do that doesn't value anyone outside of themselves.
Well, that's a very interesting point. What do you make of the fact that one of them brought their 19-year-old son? I hear what you're saying. The billionaires themselves, you put it, it's the last on the bucket list. They're bored. They're spoiled. They've got empty lives. Money can't buy you happiness, that old famous saying, and they're miserable. Been there, done that, have done everything under the sun. And they're like, look, I want to take the ultimate risk. But the 19-year-old boy, why would he bring the 19-year-old boy on your right on what's effectively a suicide mission? Why would you do that?
Now, honestly, Jeff, I didn't know about the 19-year-old. Yeah, that's just a whole nother. Yeah, but I feel like there's no way they just weren't coming back. Yeah, it's awful, awful, awful.
Thank you very much for that call, Mabel. Really interesting angle. 617-266-6868 is the number. Dane in South Dakota. Thanks for holding, Dane, and welcome.
Yes, Jeff. Not only did wokeness, I believe, kill these people now. I think they're gone. I think there's no way to recoup them and bring them up. But not only there's a word adjective to add to the wokeness, it's called arrogant. Arrogant wokeness. These people were probably very, very arrogant people from what you're saying. And something, sometimes you have to be careful what you ask for because you will get it. And now they're probably living at the cemetery of the Titanic along with the other people that perished in the Titanic. Now they will be joined by them in that cemetery down there too, because these people, you get to a point where you become so arrogant, and there's some zip lines in California you could have gone on. You would have probably got more adventure than going down there in a mystery and a risky taking adventure and spending $250,000. If you took all those billionaires and put them together, took their money, and they took that money, you imagine the mouths they could have fed, the homeless people, the veterans they could have helped with that money, instead of taking an adventure like that, a risky adventure. And now, look at, they're probably 100%, 99.9% deceased now. So, like I say, happiness, money can't buy happiness, is another example of this.
Dane, I really love your take on this, because I often say to myself, if I had money, really, I'm like, if I had, just even a couple $1 million, I'd be like, the good I could do with that, the good I want to do with that. Vets who call this show and say, Jeff, whatever, having a hard time staying, having a roof over my head, having a hard time getting 3 square meals, struggling to get my son or daughter through school or whatever. And I'm like, I wish I could just cut that person a check. Really just say thank you for your service and help them out. People who, oftentimes say, Jeff, I want to come to one of your events, but I can't afford it. And I'm telling management, look, I'll cover for her, or I'll cover for him, and let him come. And I see them, and I'm like, they just need a little helping hand. And the smile you can put on people's faces, the good you can do in the world. And instead, this is how you get your jollies? This is how you get your kicks? But, really, hey, let me dance, let me dance with death. Really, let me dance with the Grim Reaper. And that's the only way now I can get satisfaction or a thrill in my life. Dane, it's very sad. I'm so with you. Dane, thank you very much for that call. 617-266-6868 is the number. And let me throw this super quick log on the fire. Look at the search and rescue teams out there. I mean, it's not just, our Coast Guard, our Navy, the Canadian Navy, it's just from countries all over the world. And it's not just governments, it's private. I mean, there's a flotilla out there. So, the cost of this, the resources, the time, the energy, but something else. They're putting their lives at risk. There's submarine now, which I think it can go don't quote me on this, but I read it this morning. Is it 20,000 feet? It's one of these submarines it's one of the subs that can go the deepest possible you can underwater. And, they've engaged that now. So people are risking their lives to save these people. Will in Florida. Thanks for holding, Will, and welcome.
Good morning, Jeff.
Hi,
I am an ex-submariner, and respectfully, there's a 99% chance these people have been dead for several days.
Okay, now why do you say that, Will?
Yes, the reports are accurate. They lost comms about three-quarters of the way to the bottom. That's between 9,000 and 10,000 feet. At that depth, you've essentially got the pressure of a mid-sized car every square inch of the hull. Now, this thing was built with shoddy components. If you go back and look at the people who created the observation window, they wouldn't warranty it below 1,500 meters because it hadn't been tested. Titanium does not respond well to compression and release over and over again, and this thing had made dozens of dives. The carbon fiber had a history of cracking, and the sea only really allows you one mistake.
That's incredible. Will, I want to go back to something that you said just maybe a couple sentences ago, where you said it hadn't been tested below 1,500 meters. Is that, Will, did I hear you correctly?
It hadn't been warranted below 1,500 meters. The people that built it said, we're not going to buy off on it going down to 4K. We'll buy off on it going down to 15K. Best of luck, everybody. And he took it.
Oh, my God. He's insane.
Not anymore.
Oh, yeah. Will, was this, Will, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but, Mabel said, it was an interesting way of looking at it, this was so reckless and irresponsible. This is almost like a suicide mission. Would you call it a suicide mission?
Are you familiar with Hanlon's theorem?
No, what is that?
Never attribute to malice that which can be successfully explained by stupid.
Oh, I got you. So you think this was just arrogance, hubris, and stupidity, and wokeness, all in one?
I do. I think the sea underwater is very unforgiving, and this guy traded on its kindness, and it wasn't kind.
Will, dynamite call. Best audience in the business. Will, thank you very much for that call. Well, there you have it. I don't know. Really, there you have it. So they wouldn't warranty, they wouldn't insure the thing under 4,000 feet. Sorry, below 4,000 feet. This guy wants to go 15,000 feet. So basically, they're like, well, okay, well, the hell with you. We'll go and we'll see if we make it back alive. I'm going to say something that may get me in trouble, so I'm not going to say it. 617 266-6868. Tom on the Cape. Thanks for holding, Tom, and welcome.
Jeffrey,
Tom, how are you?
I am so happy that you have brought up this topic. I was in the ER room at Cape Cod Hospital the other day with heart problems. I'm connected to monitors, IVs, all the paraphernalia, heart fluttering. And what do I see on the computer screensaver? Cape Cod Hospital celebrating Gay Pride Month, June, diversity, equity, and inclusion. What a confidence builder. I thought I was going to have the big one after I saw that.
Now, Tom, please tell me everything went okay with you.
Well, I've got to go through some other procedures, but let me tell you, how can you have confidence in anything as critical as emergency medical care when they're more concerned about equity, diversion, and inclusion? I mean, come on.
Oh, you're dead on. Tom, to me, it's common sense. It's common sense. Now, look, to be fair, I mean, and I don't want people to misunderstand me. I had to have a colonoscopy done last year. They thought, they were looking, and Jeff, we're seeing some stuff, and we don't want to have colon cancer here. And the moment you say cancer, I start to freak out. I think worst case scenario. So I said, yeah, do what you got to do. So it was a female. She was from India who did the procedure. But, I spoke to her 10 minutes, whatever. And you could tell, immensely competent, very well educated. She had been doing this for over 10 years. She told me everything about the procedure, what she was going to do, what they were looking for, and all, and so you can tell right away, the woman's eminently qualified. So it's not, fine. You have great doctors, and I don't care what gender they are, what race they are. No, what's scary is, look at Kamala Harris. Look at Karine Jean-Pierre. I mean, I can just cite example after example. They're so incompetent, it's so obvious. In fact, everybody knows they're incompetent. And yet they say, but they check all the boxes. Now, when you have the CEO of OceanGate saying on the record, no, Tom, I don't want an experienced white guy, someone who's been in the military 25, 30 years, Navy, Coast Guard, who's been piloting these submarines for decades. I don't want that. I want them young, super inexperienced, and the right gender, the right ethnic background, the right sexual orientation. I want diversity, equity, inclusion, Tom, because it's all run by a freaking video game controller. So anybody, Tom, you can do it. Anybody can do it. I look at that and I run. And you're right, Tom. If you start seeing doctors like that, or they're pushing, pride, or, hey, we want to your doctor's got to be gay. Why does my doctor have to be gay? It's got to be gay. Doctor's not gay. You're not getting a doctor. My health comes first. I don't care who you sleep with, who you don't sleep with. But don't tell me this doctor is going to perform whatever brain surgery or whatever heart surgery or whatever, a colonoscopy, because they're gay. Tom, we're in trouble, my friend.
Care what the professional is as long as they're competent. I want the best people for the job. I want a colorless selection, ethnic, no regard. I don't care what you are. I don't care. I just want you to be competently qualified to do the job. The
Amen.
Best person for the job.
Amen, amen, amen. Tom, thank you so much for that call. I mean, that's me. I mean, I don't want you to look at gender. I don't want you to look at race, color, ethnicity, religion, sexual orientation. I don't care. I want the best person for the job. You know why? Because it's my life. 617-266-6868 is the number. Steve on Beacon Hill. Thanks for holding, Steve, and welcome.
Good morning, Jeff.
Hi, Steve.
I don't know. Stupid is as stupid does, as that saying is in that show. Why would anybody go? Something that small is not going to hold together like the other guy, the earlier caller. But if anybody wants to waste their money doing stupid stuff, I got a balloon ride to the moon, and it's a hot air balloon. Just pay me $200,000. I'll give you the controller. You can control it yourself, and just let me, because with all that money, I could do, like you said earlier, Jeff. You could do a lot of good, because this is stupid. It was, and the 19-year-old kid, he was probably one of those kids you see in the store kicking and screaming when his mother and father wouldn't buy him a toy. So. They're spoiled. They have nothing else to do with their money except experiment with their life. I mean, so you're not talking like taking a bath or going out in Boston Harbor and going down with the sub. You're going down 10 or 20 feet or 30 feet to look around at fish or whales or whatever. You're going down to the bottom of the ocean, 2.5 miles down, and that is not going to hold together. That you put a car in that thing, let it go down 2.5 miles and see what happens. It crushes like a can. It's just I don't know how people get that. Why people get their kicks doing stupid stuff with a lot of money.
Now look, they've run out of oxygen, and they've been looking for 4 days. Let's be honest, they're most likely dead. It's 99.9% now that they're dead. Should they continue with the search and rescue? And when do you think they should say enough is enough? Another day? 2 days? How much more before they say, I'm sorry, but the sea took them?
They should be done now. It should be all over. If they were saying this morning that, the air ran out, they should be done. Why are we spending, in other countries, spending all that money to look for people that are dead? I mean, all the people on the Titanic, that they knew where the Titanic is. I saw the Titanic when they found it, when that guy from Oceanographic Institute and all them people went down and with their camera and their submarine. I saw the Titanic. It was on the bottom of the ocean. Good. I mean, what do you got to get up close and personal? I mean, what were they going to do when they get down there? Are they going to get out of the submarine and look for artifacts? I mean, come on. It's stupid. It's a stupid reason to want to go down and look at the Titanic. And they should stop now. Stop wasting money. And people are dead.
Steve.
I'm sorry about their families. I feel bad for their families, but they're dead.
Steve, thank you very much for your call. I think you hit the nail right on the head. Look, it's your money. You can do whatever you want with it. I mean, it's a free country, or at least it was a free country. But let that go. No, I mean, look, you're right. I mean, see the movies on the Titanic. You can see the documentary. You can see on your screen, you can see the Titanic at the bottom of the ocean. So you're right. By the way, when you're that far down, it's so, like in real life, it's so dark. You can barely see an inch in front of you. So let's just, for the sake of argument, you take the risk. You go 2.5 miles down. You're at the bottom of the ocean. All that immense pressure. Okay, on your little sub, your little tourist sub. Let's say it's fine, and you make it. And now you're bumping up against the Titanic. What have you seen? What are you seeing? No, really. I mean, look, it's your money. Do what you want with it. But I'm just saying, what are you seeing? He's right. It's not like you can get out, in a scuba gear or whatever, and like, ooh, I'm touching it. Ooh. Or, whatever. Look at this. I found this. Oh, I found this necklace. I tore off a dead body. Look at this. So what have you, even if you make it, what have you achieved? What have you seen? What, just to tell people, hey, I almost died. It was touch and go. But you know what? We bumped up against the actual Titanic. Okay, wow, bravo. Huh? Okay, whoa. So Steve is right. You can see on the documentary, you just see it. Wow, look at this. Wow. It's all black now. It's all full of algae and, oh, geez, huh? Look at that. Oh, I mean, it's too much money, too much time, don't know what to do with themselves. 617-266, just my take. 617-266-6868 is the number. Dan in North Andover. Thanks for holding, Dan, and welcome.
Good morning, Jeff.
Hi, Dan.
I think
Hold on, we'll come back to you. Let's go to Mark in Franklin. Thanks for holding, Mark, and welcome.
Good morning, Mr. Bulldozer. Hey, if you get lost in New Hampshire, you pay for your rescue. All the cost to all the countries that had to go find this guy should come out of his estate. No matter why should taxpayers pay for this? We're not the ones who did this.
Oh, I so agree with you. Oh, Mark, do I agree with you? You are so right. Especially, you're right, Mark. Don't get me wrong. But this is not like, a fisherman, whatever, a fishing crew. They're trying to fish, sell at the market or whatever, their livelihood. If something goes wrong. These were tourists. These are, adrenaline-seeking, underwater tourists who like to play Russian roulette to get their thrills and drop $250,000 so they can brag at a dinner with their friends. I mean, really. So, and now we're going to have to foot the bill for all this? I agree with you. All of them. They should have to pay for everything. All the billionaires. I'm so with you. Mark, when would you call off the search?
Oh, right now.
Now. Not even give it another 24 hours?
I don't think that sub had a chance to even make the pressures. Now, I'm no expert or anything, obviously. I'm a trucker. But, from what I've read, because of this and everything, that sub couldn't make the pressures anyways. And this was purposeful negligence. This wasn't an accident.
Mark, they wouldn't insure, no insurance company would insure that sub under 4,000 feet. They said you didn't, no safety tests. This thing cannot withstand that kind of pressure. They went almost 15,000 feet. Mark, was this almost a suicide mission?
Yeah, like you said before, they were trying to get their thrills. And let me tell you something. I was in the Navy, and there ain't no damn way I was going in a sub. Sorry. Put me on top of the ocean, if anything. Because, not me. Don't care.
I'm with you. Oh, Mark, you and I are so on the same page. No, Mark, thank you very much for that call. No, really. That's why to the poll question, Sandy came up with a really creative poll question. If they gave it, for free, not the 250,000, for free, and they come up with a new sub, this one is called the Titan. So the Titan 2. Would you, for free, try to go all the way 13,000 feet underwater to see the Titanic, the wreck of the Titanic? I'm like, no. The free? You pay me, I'm not going. Nah. I like my feet on land. And if it's on water, it's on a cruise ship. It's on a boat. Hey, I don't like drifting 10, 12, 15,000 feet underneath the ocean. That's me. I like to live. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, let me throw this log on the fire, bouncing off of Mark in New Hampshire and his call. Say Grace and I go hiking in Massachusetts or New Hampshire, take your pick. And because of our stupidity or our negligence or whatever it may be, and we get lost, and there's a search and rescue, guess who has to pay for it? I have to pay for it. Well, Grace and I, we have to pay for it. So same thing with all of you. Now, if that's the case, shouldn't these are billionaires we're talking about that were on that tourist sub. Should now the company, OceanGate, should they be made to pay to help pay for all this search and rescue, which is us, we're the taxpayers, we're paying for all this, and us, Canada, other countries, and not just the company with the woke CEO who now is most likely dead. But what about the other billionaires? Their estates. The one from Great Britain, billionaire, the Pakistani billionaire. Should they be made to pay, or their estates be made to pay, for this search and rescue and all the costs of this operation? Now, if they were found alive, let's say by some miracle they're rescued, I believe they would be charged. The company would definitely be charged. But I believe even some of these billionaires could easily be charged for having to pay. They have to, they'd be asked to pay to fund or to help pay back some of the cost, defray some of the costs. But if they're found dead, I believe there's nothing. I believe my understanding is their estates won't have to pay a cent. I'm thinking, I don't get it. If you and I go hiking and we end up being lost or whatever because we go too deep in the woods or we're taking too many risks or we get lost or whatever it may be, we got to pay for the full cost of this. So why is it any different for them? To me, the company should pay, OceanGate, and the billionaires, their families, their estates. I'm sorry, but you were that reckless. You were that irresponsible. You want to play Russian roulette to get your jollies, to get your kicks. Well, you're going to have to pay for it. This wasn't an accident. Sandy made a very good point. Jeff, if you and Grace go hiking in New Hampshire, or whatever, Massachusetts, and there's a freak storm, well, that's something different. That's an accident. That's beyond your control. That's not your negligence or your stupidity. But if you and Grace want to play Tarzan and you guys run off into the woods or, go to some crazy peak mountain and suddenly, oh my God, we're lost. Oh, we're out of food. Oh my God. And they got to start searching and looking. We're going to pay as we should. 617-266-6868 is the number. Should they call off to search and rescue? And should the company and the families of the victims, the billionaires, should they have to pay for, and this is costing a fortune, should they be made to pay to refund the taxpayers? I say yes. What do you say? 617-266-6868. Alex on the South Shore. Thanks for holding, Alex, and welcome.
Jeff, on a serious note, last week or the week before, Joe Biden said that soon we will be able to ride trains under the ocean all of the way to the Indian Ocean. Now, these billionaires, if they had just waited for the rail service, they could have had a train station at the Titanic, and they could have just rode the train and then found their stop, and they could have got out and they could have seen it, and it would have been a beautiful thing. But no, they had to be selfish, and they had to throw their money into a submarine. That's how crazy it is. And that's how sane Joe Biden is. If they had just listened to Joe Biden and waited for the underwater train service, none of this would have happened.
Alex, people think you're being tongue-in-cheek about Joe Biden. We have the cut. If Sandy can find it, but It was one of the cuts I didn't play because he says so many crazy things. You're like, geez, I don't want to beat a dead horse. He gave a speech. Alex, you are 1,000% accurate. He gave a speech where he said we're going to build underwater trains all the way across the Pacific Ocean and all the way then across the Indian Ocean. That's what this guy said. So at an I believe it was in Philadelphia, an infrastructure speech. Don't quote me about Philadelphia, but it was at an infrastructure speech. And you're right. That's how insane everything is getting. So presidents are talking about railroads underwater across entire oceans, and you've got billionaires who hop into these little mini subs and try to go 2.5 feet below into the ocean, knowing they're probably going to die just to see the wreckage of the Titanic. I mean, Alex, you can't make this stuff up. Alex, I want to ask you, do you think we should call off the search and rescue? And should these people have to pay? Their families, I know they're grieving. I know they probably now realize they've lost their loved ones. But should their estates be made to pay for this, a very expensive operation?
Oh, this is kind of going to sound kind of nutty, but do you remember obviously you remember, but that Theranos company, the woman that came up with the machine that didn't work that was supposed to separate blood.
Yes.
Now, tons of billionaires and millionaires threw money at that, seeing dollar signs. And now these billionaires, some of them, yeah, they wanted to see the Titanic, but you have to remember, some of them are investors. That this was like going to be, hey, look at us, we did it. And now there's going to be other people. They were going to make money into this. These billionaires have to stop throwing their money into all of this idiotic crap. If they want to throw money at stuff, throw money at curing cancer for children or stuff that really matters. And I actually think this bad publicity is a good thing because maybe other people will say, Jesus, this probably ain't a good idea to throw money at this stupid garbage.
Really good call. Alex, I'm with you all the way. 617-266-6868.
We're going to win and we're going to help. We have plans to build a railroad from the Pacific all the way across the Indian Ocean. We have plans to build in Angola, one of the largest solar plants in the world. I can go on, but I'm not. I'm going off script. I'm going to get in trouble.
See, he's going off script. So Sandy, do me a favor. Please play it again. Before you do, just quick. This is him, infrastructure, I believe Philadelphia. He's talking about either it's underwater, a railroad underwater. Think how insane that is. Across the Pacific Ocean, across the Indian Ocean. Or it's the Green New Deal AOC. Oh, it was in D.C., my bad. Okay, it was a League of Conservative Voters in D.C., my bad. Or, like AOC, a railroad bridge across the entire Pacific Ocean, and then and high-speed rail across the entire Pacific, because they want to ban planes. I'm not kidding. So, well, how if we ban planes, how do we get to Europe? How do we get to the Asia? Well, that's no problem. We're going to build an oversea land bridge with a railroad on it. And that's how we get to Europe. That's how we get to Asia. So across the Atlantic Ocean, across the Pacific Ocean, and across the Indian Ocean. This is how crazy these people are. Roll it again, please.
Well, we're going to win and we're going to help. We have plans to build a railroad from the Pacific all the way across the Indian Ocean. We have plans to build in Angola, one of the largest solar plants in the world. I can go on, but I'm not. I'm going off script. I'm going to get in trouble.
Oh, you're crazy. You're crazy. You're absolutely crazy. I mean, it's like me saying, well, you know what? We're all going to live in outer space. What? Yeah. We're going to have spaceships, like in the movies. And we're just, hey, you want to live on the moon? Yeah. Mars? Yeah. Jupiter? Yeah. And we're just going to fly around in outer space. I've got plans. I'm not supposed to say anything, but I've got plans, big plans. Vote for me. Ay, ay, ay. Ay, ay, ay. 617. I swear, I'm the extremist. According to the libs. Get Kuhner off the air. He's crazy. I'm like, okay, whatever floats your boat. 617-266-6868. Kay in Rockland. Thanks for holding, Kay, and welcome.
Good morning. My thoughts on this is, they should pay for it, but it's also the other side is it's a learning experience for Coast Guard and the rest of the world with all their equipment to test and see how far they can go deep into doing these rescues. So that they do learn something from it. But, they should. I don't think of it as being, and then afterwards they should still stay to salvage and maybe return the bodies, but the families, they should pay because the whole thing to me was stupid anyway. Just like if you're going skiing and an avalanche happens or you're climbing the rocks and you fall down, why should the rest of us pay high premiums for insurance because you're doing something stupid?
Kay, I'm just
curious. The other side is...
Go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
And then, if I can go off script like Joe Biden, I feel it's the same thing when people from other countries come here and can't speak English, and they get interpreters should they get sick. They should be paying for that too. So don't you think?
Oh,
we
I'm
can't
with you.
get interpreters when we go to their country.
That's
going
you're dead
off
on.
Script like Joey.
No, you're dead on. You're absolutely dead on. Kay, I'm just asking. Do you think the search and rescue? I mean, you got to see the armada that they have now looking. I mean, they've got planes, ships, submarines, governments are involved. We're paying for this, but even private, they're throwing everything at this. Do you think they should continue, or when should they call it off?
As far as search and rescue goes, I think a lot of that is a big show for the world. American people, everybody, as part of their grieving process for those the loved ones of those that are in that sub. I think a lot of it is a big show. They are out there, no oxygen, they're gone. It should now be salvage. If somebody wants to do that, like they found the Titanic or find these other ships from way back when and try and get the coins or the metal or something off of these things that they're salvaging from the ocean.
Interesting. Kay, thank you very much for that call. 617-266-6868 is the number. Are they ultimately to blame? I mean, I've got to ask that question. This is very high risk. I mean, everybody knows now that it's controlled by a $30 video controller, a Game Boy or PlayStation video controller, $30. They went to Camping World. That's where they got it, Camping World. That's what's guiding the craft. And there's no safety beacon. They couldn't believe how reckless they were with all of these safety requirements. Literally, no safety beacon. And it didn't pass all kinds of tests. And so they fired the director of marine operations. And they couldn't get insured for going under 4,000 feet. They said this thing can't make 4,000 feet, never mind 15,000 feet. And then you've got the CEO openly bragging how he's got inexperienced pilots and captains of these subs and inexperienced IT people and engineers, saying because he's woke, I don't want to hire white guys, especially military veterans who are white, above 50. I want them young. I want them 20, 25, and check the right diversity boxes because I want to inspire other people. It's all about inspiration. And it's about diversity and equity and inclusion. And he says, we're going to show the world what DEI can do underseas. It's unbelievable. And now it's all blown up. It's just all blown up. And we're paying for it. Much of the world is paying for it. And these are billionaires. And you're asking yourself, so you deliberately took your life you took your life, or you risked your life. You deliberately risked your life. Why? And now we got to pay for it? I'm sorry. I don't think so. 617-266-6868 is the number. Al in Waltham. Thanks for holding, Al, and welcome.
Jeff, can you hear me?
I can hear you, Al. What's on your mind?
I think you're way off base with this one.
Okay.
It's a humanitarian subject. It's not how it happened, who's in it, who's paying. They're human.
Yeah, no, I know that, Al. But what is this? What does this have to do? I mean, it's the biggest story in the world. Yeah, I mean, Al, in other words, if they jumped into a volcano, and that's almost pretty much what they did, it's the equivalent of that, because they wanted to get a thrill, should we have to pay for that? I mean, is it so unreasonable to ask?
We won't have to pay for anything. The person would be on fire, be dead.
I know, but the analogy is it was very risky. It was very risky. And they knew it was very risky. And the equipment was incredibly shoddy. I mean, we're literally talking about a $30 video controller. I mean, this was reckless and irresponsible beyond belief. Now, it's their money. You can do whatever you want. But now it's my money. And it's your money. And it's everyone else's money for the last 4 days that we've been searching for them. I don't think it's and now the oxygen has run out. So I don't think it's unreasonable to ask, should the families have to foot the bill? Should their estates, these are billionaires, should they have to foot the bill? I don't think it's unreasonable.
That subject shouldn't even be spoken of. I think that what they did was reckless also, but they also were people. They were humans. What difference does it make how shoddy, who it was? Me personally, I think it's a non-subject. It's something that we're talking about, and it's worldwide, but I haven't heard anyone say anything compassionate about it.
Well, I mean, I've been saying the whole show, I hope they're rescued. I hope they're found alive. But I don't understand. I mean, if you're going to be that deliberately reckless, then there's a limit to my compassion. Now, you say, who cares if it's shoddy? No, I care if it's shoddy. Because they were getting into something that they knew probably they weren't going to make it back. I mean, I've asked this question all morning. Would you get on a plane that didn't pass basic safety inspection tests, that wasn't insured? Because they go, well, if it goes above 4,000 feet, we won't insure it. What? Yeah, because it can't handle the pressure. What? And yeah, there's a 25-year-old kid with a video controller. That's how this thing is being guided and controlled by a video game console. Are you serious? I'd be like, hey, buddy, I'm not stepping on this plane. So now, again, it's up to them. People jump out of planes. People do all kinds of crazy things. That's their business. But, Al, all I can tell you is this. If you or I go hiking, if you or I get lost in the woods because of our stupidity, our recklessness, our negligence, guess who pays for it when they do a search and rescue? We do. Why can't they? What, because they're billionaires?
You know what? It's, for me, personally, I can't be the only one who thinks this. That's not the subject right now. The subject should be, we think we're going to recover this thing. Years and years and years and years ago, nobody paid for their own rescue. Nobody paid for someone else's recklessness. But of all the subjects, with everything that's going on in this world, we cannot program ourselves to go back to being compassionate.
Compassionate for what? I mean, I'm sorry. If I want to play Russian roulette and put my life in danger and my life in jeopardy, and by the way, now everybody who's looking for them Right, these are look, very likely that craft is 2.5 miles underneath the sea. It's on the ocean floor. Do you know how dangerous it is for these search and rescue operations? Many of them, some of them may die. So their lives are being put in danger because these clowns wanted to get on a craft for a thrill to go see the Titanic. Well, you want to go see the Titanic? Fine, do it on your dime. But now we're all paying for this? Well, by the way, we've got homeless people. We've got vets. We've got poverty. I mean, we've got serious issues facing our country, frankly, the world. And these guys with their billions and billions and billions of dollars, you don't know how to spend your money? I mean, it's your money. You can do whatever you want. But look at the good you could be doing. Instead, this is what you decide to do with your money? And what, I'm supposed to feel sorry for them? Like, I'm sorry, Al. At a certain point, there's stupidity. And there's arrogance and there's irresponsible stupidity. And that's what we're witnessing in front of our eyes.
I don't agree with you. And I've been listening to you for a very long time. I can't believe that this is what you're going to talk about, that how it's their fault. Everything's someone else's fault or their fault. What difference does it make whether they're billionaires? If these are still human beings.
I understand they're human beings, Al. You're not listening to me. That's why we're looking for them. That's why we're spending all this money and all this time and resources. But stupid actions do have consequences. Like, I mean, I'm sorry. And they paid for this. They paid a ton of money to put their lives at risk. That's what people have to be considering right now. Why would you do that? Anyway, Al, we're going to agree to disagree on this. More with your calls next. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, let me ask all of you. Is it fair? Does Al have a point when he says we should not be talking about who should pay or not pay for the search and rescue operation? We should all just be praying for their survival, that they are rescued and that they're alive, that this is no longer a question about whether they're billionaires or not billionaires, whose fault it is, whose fault it isn't. This should be about hoping that they get rescued and battling time, which now these members, the people on that sub, are now running out. Apparently, according to the Coast Guard, they have run out of oxygen about an hour, 10 minutes ago. They had a 96-hour oxygen supply. That is now gone. So whether they're still alive, most people doubt it, but the search and rescue operations continue. What say you? And ultimately, is wokeness responsible? Did the CEO who is on that sub, Stockton Rush, with him saying, I don't want white people, I don't want people above 50, I don't want military veterans, I don't want them piloting this sub, I don't want them directing the sub, engineering the sub, building the sub, having anything to do with this. I want them as young, inexperienced as possible, and I want them diverse. Women, racially diverse, ethnically diverse, sexual orientation. The more boxes we check, the better. Why? Because according to him, I swear to you, this whole thing is controlled by a $30 video game controller. And anybody can operate a video controller. 617-266-6868 is the number. Victor in Georgetown. Thanks for holding, Victor, and welcome.
Kuhner, man, love your show, brother.
Thank you, Victor.
Listen, when I was in Southeast Asia as a Marine Corps helicopter crew chief, we flew search and rescue missions for the pilots that were either shot down or had mechanical failures, and they'd have to pop out and they'd parachute into the ocean, and we had to get to them before the sharks did. And let's talk about cost for a second. the operational cost of having the Navy, functional Marine Corps, helicopter squadrons or whatever, it's a fixed cost. So let's say it's not 100% of the cost in the situation of this downed submarine, but it is only a small portion of the actual cost is going to be associated to rescuing these people, number one. So if it's cost $1 million, let's say, maybe $50,000 is specifically for the function of trying to rescue these people. So that's number one. But you brought up a point that everyone should be listening to, and that is this. The billionaires made a tremendous incorrect assumption. See, what happens is the wealthier you get or the more distant you become from the people that actually do the work, the more you assume they're as professional as you are. Now, I'll give you an example. My grandson, 11 years old, on Monday, he summited Half Dome in California. It's not a big deal, but it's a big deal for an 11-year-old. But he has no idea of the research that we did with the people that were his guide and what have you to bring him to the top and, to be a part of that hiking crew. So my point is this. If you had $1 billion, Kuhner man, wouldn't you have your engineers go over every single function of that submarine if you're going to bring your son, if you're going to put your life on the line and not just assume that these people knew what they were doing? Because I'm going to tell you what that extends to. There are millions of people, especially the college commies. The college commies have all the answers, but they don't know any of the questions. When they think that they take over, that the people that are doing the work right now, because there is some reward and hope in what they're doing, they think that's just going to continue for them. They have no idea that sub may crash to the bottom 13,000 feet deep because they made an assumption that is totally, totally wrong. And that is that Americans are just stupid and they work because they're drones and they don't have a love of country. They don't have a love of their family or their faith. They're just going to do it. And they're not going to do it if they are taken over by these communists. I call them college commies, the Democrat Party leadership that we have now. And then I have a side comment after. But what are your thoughts?
No, Victor, look, I think you put your finger on it when you said, look, this is communism. This really is. And communism is a form of madness. It's a cancer on society. It really is. And it afflicts the brain. And what we're seeing now, and that's another term for wokeness. What wokeness really is cultural Marxism. And it's this belief that there are no consequences to anything that we do. None. None. So I want you to think about what's going on here. This is diversity, equity, inclusion. This is what they're imposing in every institution, whether it's the military, whether it's university, whether it's schools, public schools, whether it's Congress, whether it's the media, you name it, across the board, law enforcement, you name it. That diversity for its own sake is the most important goal. Forget experience, forget merit, forget competence, forget professionalism, forget any of that. So you have a CEO of a sub, and he says, I don't care how inexperienced everybody is, as long as they're not white. Okay, Kuhner man is getting some blowback, emails, text line. By the way, you can text us 70470, 70470. Some of you are saying, Jeff, you sound callous, cold, unfeeling. Why are you talking about cost at a time like this? And I'm like, look, I want them saved. Who doesn't want them saved? Of course I don't want them to be dead. And that's why they've been searching and searching for days now. But why can't we talk about cost? I mean, to me, it's not the most important thing, far from it. But this is costing a fortune. And, this wasn't an accident. As I said, this weren't the fishermen or whatever it is. These were thrill seekers. Let's be clear. Billionaires with a lot of money. That's why it's important that they're billionaires, because most people can't pay $250,000 a pop to go in some little tiny tourist sub because they want to go 2.5 miles underneath the water near the ocean floor to see the Titanic, the wreckage of the Titanic. So it's for the rich, for the uber rich, the ultra rich. No one else can afford this. So, I'm sorry, but, it's like taking a craft and saying, well, let's go into a volcano. And, hey, no, we did it once already, because apparently they had a few successful trips. This wasn't its maiden voyage. So they went, they came back, they went, they came back, and they're like, they think they're invincible. And this time they went, and now it looks most likely they're not coming back. So, if I said to you they took a craft and went into a volcano and they made it and they did it again and this time they didn't make it, well, you say, well, geez, you go into a volcano, you're asking for trouble. Yeah, of course. It's high risk. And then when you find out how shoddy it is, and this is what I can't wrap my mind around. The people who went on that craft knew how shoddy it was. They all knew. They knew it didn't pass basic safety requirements. They knew that they were hiring deliberately pilots and captains who were inexperienced, but because they're woke, they're not white old men. They're not men 50 and above, white guys, as he put it. With military experience, God forbid. Oh, you mean people that have actually, piloted a submarine? No, those people you don't want. Ay, ay, ay. Ay, ay, ay. And then, again, I'm sorry, the $30 video controller, that to me, I'm like, this is beyond stupid. This is crazy. This is reckless. This is irresponsible. I mean, to me, it's almost sickening. We're talking about 5 human lives here. One of them, a 19-year-old boy. The father lets him get on? And you're telling me this thing, which is not insured to go under 4,000 feet, you're going to take it 12, 13, 14,000 feet? Under the immense pressure of going deep, that deep underwater? And you bring your 19-year-old son? Are you nuts? So, yeah, I'm sorry. I mean, I want them to live. I don't see how one has to do with the other. And as I said, it's the biggest story in the world. I don't think we've ever seen a search and rescue operation like this ever. And finally, I just got to say this. I know I'm going to get into even more trouble. Jeff. I know. What is it with this obsession with the Titanic? I mean, don't get me wrong. I've seen several movies. I've read actually a book on the Titanic. It's a fascinating story. Please, don't get me wrong. But this need to see it, to go right up against it, to bump up to it, to risk your life to do it. Like, leave the damn thing alone. There's already documentaries on people who have, gone all the way down and you can see the wreckage. And look, it's your money. I mean, you can do whatever you want. I'm a freedom guy. You want to jump out of planes. You want to, whatever you want to do. It's your business. You want to go bungee jumping off a bridge. That's your business, man. But I'm just calling it the way I see it. We have 5 people. Some of them billionaires. And yet they pursued a deliberate, conscious policy. I want you to think of this. That they were going to put their lives at risk, high risk. Good possibility you're not coming back. Good possibility. In the hands of people who they said they hired, not because they were competent or experienced, but literally because their wokeness demanded it. DEI, diversity, equity, inclusion. And they're like, no. They even say they're not the best. Oh, far from it. No, they're very young, very inexperienced. And we hired women because they're women. And people who are minorities because they're minorities. And they're sexual or gay, lesbian, bisexual, whatever, because they're a sexual minority. Yeah. And now you're not coming back. Now, this is not one company, one crew, one sub. I'm telling you, this is the medical field, doctors, surgeons. This is what DEI and wokeness is infecting. This is the military. This is the airline industry. You're flying planes. This is universities. This is corporate America. This is almost every aspect of our society. You're getting a glimpse now into the future. As I said to Victor before, this is cultural Marxism. Woke ideology is Marxism. It's just another way of saying woke. Or, another way of saying Marxism. Forgive me, it's calling it woke. So, and if you look at the Soviet Union, that's what destroyed it. They had to employ Marxism into science, Marxism into biology, Marxism into engineering, Marxism into technology, Marxism into management of business. In other words, so everything had to, not reality, but Marxist principles. And that's why everything was screwed up. That's why the whole country was a freaking disaster. So that's what you're now starting to see in the United States of America. And these idiots are so committed to it that they're actually putting their lives on the line. I mean, I gotta say this about the owner, okay, the CEO, the billionaire, Stockton Rush. He didn't just talk the talk when it came to wokeness and DEI. He really walked the walk. He went in that sub, and now it looks like he's not coming out. And I'm just asking myself, I don't know if you're that stupid, honestly, or if you're that fanatical. But now, I bet you right now, I wish you had a 55-year-old white guy who had been in the Coast Guard or the Navy for 30 years. All I can tell you is, I bet now he's probably asking himself if he's still alive. Yeah, you know, that whole woke thing, ain't no work. It's not a good idea. Maybe I should go with experience, talent, and competence over diversity. Because they'd all be alive. 6-1. In fact, they wouldn't even be in the sub. Because any one of these people would have said, this is a horrible idea. This ship, this craft will not sustain the kind of pressure. It will implode. You will not survive. But some 25-year-old gamer with the PlayStation control, yeah, we could do this. Yeah. 617-266-6868 is the number. Lines are blazing. Okay, in just 10 minutes, we're going to have a key surrogate or spokesperson for the Ron DeSantis presidential campaign on, Ken Cuccinelli. And I will ask him some of the questions many of you are asking about DeSantis and his run for the presidency. DeSantis is making the war on wokeness a central plank of his entire platform. And we're talking about wokeness as we speak. Let's go to Jack in Attleboro. Thanks for holding, Jack, and welcome.
Hello, everybody. Thank you for taking my call.
My pleasure, Jack.
Okay, the first I want to ask all the Kuhnerites out there to say a prayer for those people.
Yes.
They're going to need it.
Yes,
definitely.
You
know what I mean?
Yes, definitely.
And
they're in our thoughts and prayers.
Absolutely. You know, they must be horrified, you know. Instead of spending $250,000, I would take that free ride on that sub.
Now, you would? Now, I'm just curious. Now, tell me, Jack, why?
I'm a thrill seeker. But there is one stipulation that I would wholeheartedly volunteer to get on that sub. You know what that is? That would be if Jacques Cousteau was the captain. That's the only reason. Because with Jacques
so in
Cousteau
other
as the
words, Jack, you're saying unless I have the most professional, experienced, competent people piloting this thing, driving or whatever, operating this thing, engineering this thing, I'm not going, correct?
Correct. You can't get any more genius than Jacques Cousteau. With him as the captain, I would feel as comfortable as, being a baby in my mother's arms. You know?
Jack, I got to ask you, I'm just curious. Yeah, no, I know. Sandy's like, Cousteau is there. I think he died a while back, didn't he? Yeah, he did he did die a while back. Jack, I've got to ask you, look, I understand it's a fascinating story. I've seen multiple movies. I read a book. It was a page turner. It was clearly a watershed moment in the 20th century. But why, Jack, I'm just curious, why are you so fascinated with the Titanic that you'd be willing to potentially risk your life to go all the way down just to see it? I'm just curious.
I was only being facetious. I wouldn't get in that thing.
Oh, okay.
Are you kidding me? Yeah, $12 remote control from Walmart. Come on, man. I mean, give me a break.
No. I thought you meant no, Jeff. If this was a really well-crafted submarine, really professionally designed with the best people, the best engineering, the best pilots, in other words, Jeff, it's safe. It's well done. It's not this thing they just whipped up together. Then yeah, I mean, I would go because I really would like to see the Titanic. That's what I thought you meant, Jack.
No, I'd get in something like that if I had a captain from a nuclear submarine, in charge. I mean, I might look stupid, but trust me, I'm not.
Jack, thank you very, very much for that call. Okay, look, let's just say you're on a military submarine. Okay, let's just, we're talking state-of-the-art technology. This is, the best of the best. Okay, I'm just curious. Okay, I'm not talking something with a $30 video game, Game Boy controller. All right. So, and doesn't pass basic safety tests. I'm talking state of the art, nuke submarine. This thing can take a ton of pressure. I'm just curious. Would you go just to see the wreckage of the Titanic? The reason why I ask is I'm always people are willing to almost risk their lives to see the Titanic. And I just to me, what is the allure that you're willing to risk your life? I'm just curious. 617-266-6868. John in Quincy. Thanks for holding, John, and welcome.
Jeff, thanks for all you do. Okay, they should keep going and rescuing, keep going with the search until that thing is found, because you know why? For the next group that goes out there, they have to know they may have some capability on their craft, and they have to know whether that someone's, they may have one charge left in a something that can rescue them or propel them, and they have to know whether they're going to keep being searched for, and whether they should use it to that end, or whether they should say, well, they've given up searching, so we have to use it to our one last charge to try to propel us out of here, or something like that. It matters to the next one whether the people inside have a mental idea of whether they're going to be searched until their dead bodies are found and their vessels found. And that's important. I'm not saying they're going to find them alive, but they should go until they find
salvage. I know what you're saying. In other words, John, maybe now it's time. Give it another 24 hours, but maybe it's now time to eventually start calling it a salvage operation. The only thing, John, pardon me, sorry, what? Yeah, recovery, salvage and recovery operation. John, what a lot of experts, Coast Guard experts, Navy experts, underwater experts say, after a while, when you go that deep underwater, the pressure, and you're that long underwater, the pressure is so immense. It's unimaginable to us, the kind of pressure it's under. They believe the thing actually just imploded. What many are saying is, I don't think you're going to find anything because it's just like a can. It just gets crushed after a while. So they may search and search and search and search, and they may end up finding nothing because it's obliterated. It's gone.
That brings me to the next point, transponders, that we keep hearing about these planes that go down, for instance, and this especially, these are so specialized, this problem with not having transponders, which can survive that. I'm sure they can do that. So the thing, dead or alive, or what smashed smithereens, they find the transponder attached to it, and that's a necessity. And here I am, one of these guys who's least into government regulations, and here I am screaming for they have to, even if the thing is a piece of crap, excuse me, there has to be
no, John, look, you put your finger on it. No, you really did. Look, and this is why I think a lot of people are a little bit angry. I mean, of course, there's compassion. I want them all found. Who doesn't want them found? I don't want 5 people dead, especially that 19-year-old boy. But they did so many things, and there's no other way to put it, and I'm sorry, but I have to say it, that were so stupid. And that's what many, even within the company, are saying. OceanGate is the company. They're like, what? They kept saying to the CEO, put a safety beacon on. Every submarine has a safety beacon, transponder, as you put it. Why won't you put a safety beacon on? He refused to do it. So why? I mean, it doesn't cost that much, really. It doesn't. That's a big reason why they can't even locate the thing. There's no safety beacon. So why did you do that? Why did you not do that? I mean, they cut every possible corner. Again, it was controlled by a video game console that he bought from Camping World? The CEO even commented on how the portal would collapse a little bit under the water. He actually said that. So he's like, yeah, it could collapse a little bit underwater. What? So when you look at this again from any angle you want, that's why I'm telling you, people quit the company or others were fired. They're saying people are going to die. It's not a question of if, it's a question of when. They're going to die. And the insurance company told them, they go, look, we're not insuring you. Why? Because under 4,000 feet, this sub is going to get crushed. It's not strong enough. It's not built well enough to last 4,000 feet. You want to go 15,000 feet. Okay. Look, I don't know what's in his mind. I don't want to go into this person's mind. It's a grisly, horrific death. This is going to add to the Titanic legend. Because now this crew is dead, most likely, looking to, try to get a peek at the wreckage. So it's like the Titanic legacy lives on, but it's almost as if he had a death wish. I think Mabel, one of our earlier callers at 7:00, said this was like a death wish. And I don't know if it's a death wish or sheer stupidity or arrogance or hubris. Now, because they got away with it once or twice before, this was not its maiden voyage. You think you're invincible. Well, it's like Russian roulette, Pop, you pull the trigger. Oh, I didn't die. You do it again. Pop, you didn't die. Well, eventually, that bullet's going through your brain. He was playing with his own life and that of everyone on board. That, to me, is the most sickening thing of all. Billionaires. And what? Bungee jumping's not good enough for you? Water skiing's not? How about a roller coaster? No, that's not good enough? So here we are. Thank you very much for that call. I really appreciate it, John. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, speaking of wokeness and diversity, equity, inclusion, The war on wokeness is really in many ways a central plank of Ron DeSantis' presidential campaign. It's also been a key pillar of his governorship in Florida. Well, joining us now is former Virginia Attorney General, visiting fellow at the Heritage Foundation. He was also the deputy director under the Trump administration of the Department of Homeland Security. He now is a key person who's speaking out on behalf of the super PAC, Never Back Down, which supports DeSantis for president. Ken Cuccinelli. Ken, thank you so much for coming on the Kuhner Report. It's a true honor and privilege. And I want to ask you, Ken, right out of the gate, because I know many of my audience want me to ask you this question. You served under President Trump. You served him well. You served him honorably. Why are you supporting DeSantis and not Trump?
Well, good morning, Jeff. And I was proud to work in the Trump administration. I was the deputy secretary at DHS, and we worked very hard to implement the national security policies at the border that the president had campaigned on. I was often opposed, particularly on the legal immigration front, by people in the White House, right up to and including the president himself. And I saw how much more effective we could have been. And, the president brought in a lot of people. It was almost random. I mean, he had some really great folks. He also had people he brought in who opposed his own agenda. I mean, he's complaining today about Christopher Wray. Well, he appointed Chris Wray to head the FBI, and he never let him go. And we had complaints about him when I was at DHS. For instance, remember the riots through 2020 after the George Floyd killing. And when they were attacking federal facilities, the Department of Homeland Security was responsible for protecting those facilities. We couldn't pry 2 FBI agents out of the FBI to get help with those efforts. And but then January 6th happens, and they turn the whole department over to getting after the right-wingers who riot, right? So, the president owns a lot of that, and as much as I like him personally, I'm not anti-Trump by any means. It was painfully obvious to me how much more we could have done. And you contrast that with Governor DeSantis, who has literally gotten more done than any chief executive in America, including presidents, in his area of responsibility as a governor. He's done it in education, taxes, debt, law enforcement, criminal justice, illegal immigration, to the extent states are able to address that. I mean, literally, you can't name an important issue that he hasn't made major progress in, frequently in the face of vicious onslaughts. And in his most nationally well-known set of accomplishments, breaking Florida out of the national lockdowns within weeks of them starting in 2020, and freeing up Florida families and businesses and children to go back to school. He was attacked not only by the media and the so-called experts, but by President Trump himself. And yet he stuck with it. He stayed the course. And as we saw, Florida benefited tremendously. People were leaving other states to move to Florida. The mom and pop and middle-sized businesses of Florida survived, where they were crushed across the rest of the country. So it had freedom benefits, it had economic benefits that were across the spectrum. Didn't matter whether you were black, white, Hispanic, purple, or green. You benefited from living or moving to Florida. And that freedom agenda, that vision, is one he brings nationally. And the other area he's best known because of his success is fighting the woke mob, whether it's in schools to protect little children from being sexualized by, frankly, perverts, and or the teachers' unions who are shielding all of that. He's even done it in higher ed. And I don't know about you, I kind of thought higher ed, public higher ed, was gone to conservatives, and Ron DeSantis, as governor of Florida, has proven that you can take back that territory. And he is doing it. And he's doing it with policies and principles that are implementable at a national level. It brings a great vision for America forward, and it shows us there's hope to turn this Biden mess around. And nobody could do it better, more effectively, faster, or longer, or more permanently than Governor DeSantis. And I've seen that up close in terms of both of the choices. So I think I'm in a pretty good position to have judged that. And having done so, I helped start this super PAC, Never Back Down, and we're pressing ahead. We've knocked on over 300,000 doors. We have millions more to go. No candidate or super PAC has ever had the grassroots contact that we have already had in this race. And while it's not a silver bullet, it will gradually introduce the governor on a very personal basis to voters in the Super Tuesday states and the first 4 states. And we believe that given all that he has to offer, that's going to turn the tide in his favor. And when we get to the general election, my prediction for you is that Joe Biden won't even debate Ron DeSantis. They'll come up with an excuse, but he's too smart. He's too good. It would be the greatest slaughter in the history of presidential debating. So it won't even happen.
Well, Ken, look, by the way, we're talking with Ken Cuccinelli, former Deputy Secretary, Homeland Security in the Trump administration. And Ken, there's no question about it. You were a border hawk. There's no doubt about it. He's also a former visiting fellow at the Heritage Foundation. He now heads Super PAC Never Back Down, which is supporting Governor Ron DeSantis to be the next president of the United States. Ken, what I want to ask you is this. Trump is ahead, depends which polls you look at, 30, 35, 40 percentage points. He's got a big commanding lead, not just over DeSantis, who's number 2, but over everyone else. If Trump is the nominee, will Ken Cuccinelli and will Ron DeSantis endorse and back Trump? I'm just curious.
Absolutely. Absolutely. This whole effort is not an anti-Trump effort. President Trump's presidency achieved a lot of things. It fell short on a lot of others, but it achieved a lot of things. And there's no question when you compare the alternative of him to Biden, it's no contest. But that isn't the choice before us. We can do much better, and we can do it for 8 years, including, by the way, the next census, which President Trump screwed up in 2020. He rolled over for the courts instead of fixing that, and it doesn't punish blue states for being sanctuary states. We need to do that. Well, he can't do it. He can't do it. Even if he wins, he's gone after 2028. He only has 4 more years, whereas DeSantis can be there, and as we've seen in Florida, he eked out a win in 2018 by 0.5%, but when he had the opportunity to perform, implementing, by the way, down the line conservative policies, he won by 20%. He won Hispanics. He got 60% of the Hispanic vote. He won independents. He won women's vote. He won all of the demographics that a Republican presidential candidate would need to win the swing states across the country. And he knocked him out of the park, to put it in his baseball terms. And that's what we need to win and to hold the House and expand our majority. Unfortunately, if President Trump's at the top of the ticket, he can win. That's entirely plausible. But we will lose the House, and there'll be major down-ticket carnage for Republicans. So, if you think in terms of getting things done, that's not a great strategy.
Ken, we've got about 2 minutes left. Let me ask you, what do you say to the argument that Trump makes? Yes, look, DeSantis did a great job in Florida, no question, or he's done a great job in Florida. But without Trump's endorsement, DeSantis would not have won in 2018. So he's now being disloyal to Trump. How do you deal with the disloyalty argument? And basically, look, it's Trump's turn. He's got plenty of time to finish a second term and run. I'm just curious, and run in 2028. America? Go ahead, Ken.
Is this about Trump or about America? I'm not supporting Ron DeSantis because I'm his pal. I'm closer to the president on a personal level. This is about America, folks. Who is the best choice to lead America going forward? That is a layup to me. It is as good as Trump did. DeSantis paces him on the opportunity he presents for American leadership going forward. This is, if people are just going to, you fight an old fight through Trump, great, I get it. A lot of people do that. It explains a lot of the personal loyalty. But loyalty is a one-way street with President Trump. There is one person in the nation from his large circle who started with him in March of 2015 that's still with him. It's Steve Stepanek there in New Hampshire. There's not another single person. Where are all the people from his administration? They're not getting out there and pushing the ball up the hill for President Trump. They know too much.
Ken, I don't mean to...
like I do.
Ken,
just
so
like
basically you're saying
this is about America.
It's about America. I got you. And you think DeSantis is stronger than Trump. I don't mean to cut you off. We got 20 seconds left. Ken Cuccinelli, thank you so much for coming on the Kuhner Report. He heads the Super PAC Never Back Down, which supports Governor Ron DeSantis. Ken, thank you once again. To the audience, more next. 617-266-6868 is the number. Mel in Saratoga. Thanks for holding, Mel, and welcome.
Hey, good morning, Jeff. Passed after during the administration. But anyhow, it was about, I don't know, maybe a half a dozen callers back. They got, sounds to me as a typical, liberal Democrat. Oh, we've all got to chip in and help such and such, to try and straighten out their major mistakes. I mean, with this submarine, this submersible vehicle, hey, and that's what they wanted to do. Hey, that's on you. I didn't put a gun in your head and make you go down there and do something stupid. But as far as wokeness now, I mean, hey, you get what you pay for. You want to go cheat? You want to go woke? You go broke, and you end up at the bottom of the ocean. But anyhow, I've got a feeling, this is a ploy by the Democratic Party. I got a feeling sometime around noontime you may see breaking news. Such and such craft has been spotted and located, and it's rescue. Everyone's survived, and but it was found maybe 100 or so miles away from the targeted area that they supposedly submersed into. I don't know. That's my feeling. It seems awful. To me, it seems strange.
Now, I want to ask you this, because you've been a real critic of woke ideology and diversity, equity, inclusion, DEI, which now we're starting to learn could, leads to, it should be called DIE, die, because that's what it leads to for many cases. Mel, let's leave out the sub or pilots or the medical field or other things that are life and death. If I said to you, I'm a professional football team, the NFL. Well, whites are like, what is it now? 70% of the population. So I got to have 70% of my players white and only 13% black, because that's what they are in terms of the population. Well, as an NFL team, I'd suck. I'd get destroyed. Or if I had a hockey team, professional hockey team, and I said, no. We got to have 13% black, how many percent Asian, how many percent Latino or Hispanic, how many percent gay, and you run down the whole list. As a professional hockey team, you'd get destroyed. So how come when it comes to professional football, we don't care that, let's say, 80% of the players are usually African American or black, or in hockey, they're overwhelmingly white, 90% even. You want best person for the job, most talented, most competent, most capable, most experienced. You don't care who they sleep with. You don't care what their skin color is. You don't care about any of that. So how come when it comes to professional sports, no. But things that are life and death on a plane, in a submarine, Mel, God forbid, you need a heart surgery or you got to go under the knife. All of a sudden now, we got to check boxes? Or in this case, the Vice President of the United States? Why is it when it comes to professional sports, Mel, they're not quote unquote woke? There's no DEI, at least on the field. But when it comes to flying in the sky or under a surgeon's knife or underneath the water, no, Mel. We've all got to be woke.
Well, Jeff, if I'm going to get a hangnail taken care of, I mean, I'm looking for the best guy for the job. I'm not looking for skin color. And that ain't going to get the job done. If anything, it's going to reverse my issue and get me into a worse place. But as you say, yeah, with the NBA, I mean, there was a I don't know, some representative or some other figure, public figure was saying about, oh no, I think, yeah, it was about the NFL. Oh, they're getting treated like slaves. I never saw slaves make the kind of money that these guys are making today. I mean, it's so it's so full of BS, Jeff. And I'm an American who happens to be black, and I'm tired of, I look at other blacks, and if they support the Democrat Party, you get what you deserve. You're just being used as a tool to be used and abused and get that vote. And I say the next day after you give them the vote, you look around, you can't find these people until the next election cycle with a search warrant. These politicians that are talking you into staying on the plantation. And it's not just, it's not all blacks. There's blacks out there that, they work for a living. They got families to raise. They pay their taxes. They go to work. They do this. They're not into that wokeness. They're not into the Democrat talking points or, we're not. We want to live our lives like everyone else, to be productive, be responsible, and just be left alone. But Amen. I think it's going in that direction. Hey, too, with a lot.
I agree.
The black
I agree, Mel. I think it's coming to an end. I think the Democrats' dominance now is coming to an end on their control over many of these voting blocks. I really agree with you. Mel, as always, thank you so much for that call. Here, look, he mentioned the NBA. Really, there are many teams. They're all practically all black. Great. Who cares? Yeah, I don't care. I want the best possible team. That's it. If the 12 best players are black, God bless them, man. In hockey, if the best players on the ice happen to all be white, okay, I don't care. Win me that cup. That's all that matters. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, by the way, just so that you know, we're going to get a spokesperson for Trump as well, obviously, to be fair. And we're hoping to get both candidates on. Actually get the governor, Ron DeSantis, on, and of course President Trump on. So anyway, so we had Ken Cuccinelli today, but there's a Trump spokesperson we're going to get on very soon because we always want to be definitely fair. 617-266-6868 is the number. The sub, did wokeness bring it down? And did it get the crew potentially killed? And is it going to get all of us killed? 617-266-6868 is the number. Ronnie in Boston. Thanks for holding, Ronnie, and welcome.
Hey, good morning to you in Kuhner country, Jeff. Thanks as always for taking the call.
My pleasure, Ronnie.
It was a real treat to listen to Ken Cuccinelli, to listen to the other side, Jeff. But I've got to tell you, he sounded like someone talking from a position of weakness, but trying to pretend he was talking from a position of strength. I mean, the bottom line, argument that they just don't have an answer for in the DeSantis campaign is anything that you can say Ron DeSantis did for Florida, Trump has done for the entire country, and they just don't have an answer or a response for that. I also found it peculiar that Ken Cuccinelli said that he's actually personally closer to Trump than DeSantis. And I'm not really sure exactly how to translate that or exactly how Ron DeSantis himself is supposed to take that when he hears it. But I just found that really peculiar. The other thing is that he also said, if it's Trump, it's possible he can win, but if he does, we're going to lose the House and we're going to take a beating in the midterms. Like as if we wouldn't if Ron DeSantis One, I mean, that's traditionally what happens to every president that wins. They almost always take a bit of a beating in a midterm. I mean, that's true for every president. And the other thing he said that I thought was interesting was that while Trump got a lot of things right during his presidency, he also got a lot of things wrong. But he never mentioned what those wrong things were. And I would have been real curious as to what Ken Cuccinelli thought that Trump just really screwed up. But I've never been more convinced than ever to vote for Trump after listening to Ken Cuccinelli, Jeff. Just my opinion. But I didn't hear anything that really made me, take notice or really, he sounded weak. I'll be honest with you. He sounded weak.
Well, I don't agree with him. I'm a Trump guy all the way, but his argument essentially is, and that's why I think what he means by I'm personally closer to Trump. I like Trump. That's what he's saying. I like him. I like a lot of his ideas. I thought his presidency was very successful. I think he got a lot of things right. But I think DeSantis, this is his argument, is more disciplined, is more focused, ultimately will be more effective. He talked about how Trump hired some good people, but he hired a lot of bad people. That was his argument. So he goes, I was trying to secure the border, and here we're fighting other people in the administration or trying to undo exactly what we're trying to accomplish. So I think he's trying to say as an executive, as a manager, that Trump made bad hires and was in some sense a little bit too undisciplined and got his eye off the ball occasionally. DeSantis, he's saying, I'm not his buddy. We're not friends, but DeSantis runs a well-oiled machine. And that in the end, we'll put up more points under DeSantis than we would under Trump. I think I'm essentially fairly characterizing his argument. What do you say to that?
I think that's laughable, Jeff. Your well-oiled machine is 40 points behind in the freaking polls. Okay, that's how well-oiled your machine is. You're 40 points behind, and I don't know how they plan on making that up, but it certainly isn't with the kind of messaging that Ken Cuccinelli brought to the show this morning. That's what just makes me laugh. The well-oiled machine, and he's so disciplined, so much more disciplined than Trump, and so much more this and that than Trump, and he's 40 points behind, Jeff. Doesn't sound very well-oiled to me. And when you consider all of the missteps that DeSantis has taken with the CNN with the Twitter appearance, it's just, surrounding himself with nothing but never Trump rhinos and Bush leftovers, and you're going to judge Trump on the people that he hired when your whole campaign is a bunch of, and all of DeSantis's campaign is, Jeff, is that, like the Karl Roves of the world, the Bill Kristols of the world have whispered in DeSantis's ear that Trump will never get out from under January 6th. He'll never get out from under these indictments. And so now is your time. And it just all rings as very treacherous and betrayal.
Ronnie, what do you make? The one thing I thought that I liked in the interview was when he said, without question, I will should Trump win the nomination, and it looks like he's going to win it now, unless something truly shocking or stunning happens, he's going to win it. He's going to win it running away. But, he did say unquestioningly, he goes, he didn't even flinch. He said, I will back Trump against Biden. So will DeSantis. What did you think of that?
Then why aren't you backing Trump now? That's my answer to that. If you're going to back Trump unconditionally, why aren't you backing him unconditionally now? I mean, and here's the thing with DeSantis. I don't want to stay on too long. I know you've got a lot of other callers, Jeff. But when you're Ron DeSantis, when you have to launch your campaign by breaking a fundamental oath that you made to Floridians that you were going to be their governor for 4 years, and now to run for president, you're not governing Florida. You're thinking about nothing but campaigning for president.
I think when we bring Trump's spokesperson on, Ronnie, I think that spokesperson is going to make that exact same argument you just made. Because I do think it's an Achilles heel in DeSantis. Ronnie, thank you very much for that call. 617-266-6868 is the number. Willie in Charlestown. Thanks for holding, Willie, and welcome.
Good
Good morning, Jeff. Thanks for taking my call. I'd like to talk about this game stick or whatever you call it for $30. You know, my guess is it's made in China, but did that bring that submersible down? I don't think so. It was stupidity on behalf of the owner of the company. He was woke to the core, which is why I don't fly one of the major airlines right now, because they are as woke as can be.
Which one now? Now, Willie, which one is that? Which airline? Because I want to avoid that airline.
United. They said they are going to stop hiring like white pilots and hire more minorities and women pilots that are less qualified. This was about a year or two ago, Jeff.
Okay, Willie, maybe I missed it or I forgot about it because I'm 53 now. I'm like forgetting stuff. Like my kids are making fun of me. They've nicknamed me Old Man Jenkins from SpongeBob. You know, the guy with the cane. Ooh, that's me now. The kids are making fun of me because they're like, Daddy, we told you this. You forgot about it. So maybe I just forgot about it. But Willie, count me out. If they're doing this woke diversity stuff, this DEI, when it comes to piloting a plane, I don't think so, Willie. Call me crazy. I want the best pilot possible. I don't want someone because they check the boxes. Willie, thank you very much for that call. Okay, that's off my list. I don't need this. We're going down. All right, so Sandy's saying that United said that they're going to give money for diversity training to flight schools so they can encourage more diversity hiring across the industry. But they're still going to hire white pilots. It's not like that 2 years ago. So anyway, but still, as you're going down, hey, we're going down. I don't really know what I'm doing here, but hey, I'm not an old white guy. I'm like, no, I'm good. Thank you. No, I'm good. I'll fly with another airline. Peter in Winchester. Thanks for holding, Peter, and welcome.
Hi, Jeff.
Hi.
Thank you, Jeff. I wish people would stop referring to what the Democrats are doing as diversity. I don't believe it's diversity. It's proportionality. They're looking for proportionality in every industry, and the reason that they're doing this is because their social policies, whether it be affirmative...
Peter, can you do me a favor? I'm up against a hard break. He says it's not diversity, it's proportionality, and there's a reason for it. We'll find out from Peter next. Peter, let's go right back to Peter in Winchester. Peter, so you were saying their real goal is not quote-unquote diversity. It's proportionality. They want proportionality in every aspect of government, of business, of education. And you were talking then about social policy and affirmative action. Please, Peter, pick up where you left off.
So, yes, Jeff, I think that more closely is reflective of what the Democratic Party is looking for. And I think, we see it in many of these left-wing school districts and places in the country where they're either eliminating honors courses or they're going to a different type of grading system. And it's all about creating the proportionality, not the diversity. Diversity is reflective of differences in people, and everybody has strengths and weaknesses. People aren't the same. There's very little equality of anything in the world as far as those things are concerned, and so that's what they're looking for. They're looking for proportionality, and there's gonna be a price to pay for this proportionality because, as you say, people are going to be going into positions. And they're not going to be qualified for those positions. And this is the direction that the Democratic Party is going, and people should be aware of it and vote these people out of office because it's damaging to the country.
Peter, to bring it back full circle, I think you're dead on, by the way. To bring it back full circle, what do you say? You got the CEO of Ocean Gate, of this sub now that it looks like we're not going to be able to find it, or at least retrieve people who are going to be alive. So he literally made a big deal out of the fact that he was pushing DEI and wokeness, that he didn't want to hire the most competent or the most experienced. In fact, he said, everybody thinks I'm crazy, but I don't care. I don't want 50-year-old plus white guys with military experience. I want them inexperienced. I want them young, and I want them, quote unquote, diverse. I want women. I want minorities, whether they're qualified or not. That's what we're about as a company. And he was so reckless and irresponsible, he went into the submersible. And now it looks like he's probably dead, most likely, along with everybody else. I mean, is wokeness going to start getting people killed, Peter?
Well, I think it's inevitable that eventually, if this continues, that will be the consequence of placing people in positions regardless of their qualifications, and at the same time, passing over people that are more qualified, that have worked harder, that have made better choices in their lives, maybe, and that's the price we're going to pay if people don't step up and stop this. And the way we stop it is to vote the Democrats out of office. And I think this is what the Republican Party has to do. They have to connect the dots here between the consequences of Democratic policies and what they actually are.
Peter, thank you very much for that call. Really good call. Dave in New Bedford. Thanks for holding, Dave, and welcome.
Jeff, speaking of woke and the about it, Jeff.
Excellent. Oh, you're coming in loud and clear. Go ahead, Dave.
The Titanic was the only ship in the British fleet that was never christened when it was launched, and they billed it as the achievement of man, and they left, and that's the tragedy of it sinking. They claimed it was unsinkable, blah, blah, blah. That was kind of a woke thing back then, where they were coming into...
I didn't know that. So it was the only ship that wasn't Christian in the British fleet?
Yep,
christened, forgive me. It was the only one that wasn't christened in the British fleet?
Yep. And then after that, of course, they went back to christening ships.
Oh, I didn't know. I mean, I knew about, they talk about man-made hubris and arrogance, and it's unsinkable, and that's why nothing can happen to it. It's indestructible. And so everyone says, well, the captain was negligent, and he was incompetent, and he was careless, but he figured, well, what the hell? I mean, this thing is unbreakable. It's invincible. So I always understood that part of it. I did not know that. Whoa. Dave, do you think we're going to find these crew members or these passengers on that sub? You think we're going to find them alive? Or do you think they're pretty much gone?
Well, last night I had my prayer for them, but today, I don't know. Today it could be looking bad.
Apparently, the oxygen ran out about, 3 hours ago?
Yeah, if the thing didn't implode already.
That's right. That's right. Dave, thank you very much for that call. Interesting piece of information.
Thank you, Jeff.
Thank you. Jose in Quincy. Thanks for holding, Jose, and welcome.
Morning, Jeff. I'm going to give you an example of woke gone bad, and it's the MBTA. But before I do that, I want to thank you for all the work you do. And because of you and your research, I never have to watch the news. So I want to thank you for that.
Oh, thank you, Jose. I appreciate it.
Anytime. Now, I'm a 30-year retired veteran of Subway from 1985 to 2015. And when I first came on the job, they sent us over for training. Of course, you have to learn how to operate trains and emergencies and evacuate stations and everything else. I had an instructor, the first one I had. He was a black gentleman. I'll just say his initials were DT. He was the most competent instructor that I had dealt with even throughout my entire career when I dealt with 15, 20 other instructors. Never had one as good as he. Now, about halfway through my career, they started sending us to diversity training, okay? We had to learn how to love minorities in this class. I mean, we were already diverse, black, white, Chinese, Hispanic. Now, the litmus test of a good subway employee, can you get that train going when it breaks down on a hot July day at South Station in the middle of rush hour in a packed environment?
Jose, sorry, I don't mean to rush you, but I only got 20 seconds. And so what was the upshot?
My point.
We lost the point. Jose, you have to call back. We're going to have you back on, and I want you to finish your point, okay? Because, it would have been the perfect exclamation point to today's show. I got to go. Bye-bye.